First contact. The vast emptiness of the Carina sector stretched before the Zorak deep space reconnaissance vessel, its crystalline hull gleaming with technological sophistication that had conquered hundreds of star systems. Commander Xelnak reviewed the sensor logs with practiced indifference, his four-chambered eyes scanning the holographic displays that flickered with millions of bytes of astronomical data. Nothing could have prepared them for the anomaly that appeared on their long-range scanners. The vessel was small, pathetically small. Its design was almost primitive, angular metal construction that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts, lacking the elegant curves and quantum-integrated systems of Zorak engineering. Commander Xelnak would have dismissed it as space debris, if not for the unexpected energy signatures emanating from its hull. "Analysis," he commanded, his translator clicking with clinical precision. Lieutenant Vora, the ship's primary sensor specialist, manipulated the holographic interface. Vessel appears to be of human origin. Preliminary scans indicate minimal technological advancement. Propulsion systems are chemical-based. Weapon systems appear rudimentary. The bridge crew exchanged knowing glances. The Zorak Collective had encountered dozens of emerging civilizations. Most surrendered the moment Zorak warships entered their star systems. Some resisted and were summarily eliminated. This human vessel looked like it would barely qualify as the latter. What they didn't know was that the vessel was the UES Horizon, an experimental deep space research ship captained by Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a name that would soon become legendary across multiple star systems. The first communication came unexpectedly. Not a plea for mercy, not a desperate attempt at negotiation, but a calm, almost curious transmission. "Unidentified vessel, this is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth Ship Horizon. You are entering a restricted research zone. Please state your intentions." Xelnak's mandibles clicked in amusement. A restricted zone. Humans had barely colonized 3 star systems. The audacity was almost charming. "Lieutenant," he spoke, "respond with standard territorial absorption protocol. Inform them of the Zorak Collective's claim to this sector and provide them 3 standard time units to surrender or be eliminated." What happened next would become a turning point in galactic history. The human response was neither submission nor panic. Instead, the small vessel began executing maneuvers that defied every known principle of spatial navigation. It didn't just dodge, it predicted. Each plasma burst from the Zorak vessel was anticipated, avoided with a precision that suggested something beyond mere piloting skill. "Impossible," Vora muttered, her sensor readings becoming increasingly erratic. The Horizon wasn't just avoiding their attacks. It was studying them, learning, adapting. Captain Rodriguez's voice returned, this time with a hint of what could only be described as professional curiosity. "Your targeting systems are impressively complex. Interesting quantum phase modulation in your weapon signatures." It was then that Commander Xelnak realized something fundamentally terrifying. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were analyzing the Zorak technology in real time. A series of precise, calculated countermaneuvers followed. The Horizon didn't have superior weapons. It didn't have advanced shields. But it had something far more dangerous, an ability to transform limitation into opportunity. When the first kinetic projectile struck the Zorak vessel's shield grid, causing a cascading energy disruption that the ship's automated systems couldn't immediately compensate for, Xelnak understood a truth that would reshape the collective's understanding of the universe. Humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were something else entirely. As alarms blared and system warnings flashed across the bridge, Commander Xelnak made a decision that would be debated in Zorak war councils for generations. Retreat. The first battle with humanity had ended, and the Zorak Collective had just learned that technological superiority meant nothing against true adaptive intelligence. Somewhere on the Horizon's bridge, Captain Elena Rodriguez allowed herself the smallest of smiles. First contact was always interesting. The misunderstood species. The Zorak Central Archives were a marvel of computational brilliance. Vast crystal repositories housed millennia of collected knowledge, meticulously organized and instantly retrievable. In the wake of the unprecedented encounter with the human vessel, an emergency research team had been assembled to understand this perplexing species. Chief Researcher Kolvar activated the holographic interface, his segmented fingers dancing across quantum-sensitive projections. The team had been analyzing human historical records for precisely 72 standard cycles, and what they discovered defied every predictive model in their extensive database. Observe, Kolvar announced to the assembled research council, the pattern of human development. Holographic images began to unfold. Primitive stone tools gave way to bronze, then iron. Agricultural societies transformed into industrial civilizations in breathtaking bursts of innovation. But it wasn't the technological progression that caught the researchers' attention, it was the method. Humans didn't evolve through steady, predictable advancement. They leaped. They adapted. They transformed entire paradigms of understanding with what could only be described as radical creativity. A research assistant named Vorik pointed to a particularly intriguing segment. Look at their response to environmental challenges. When resources became scarce, they didn't collapse. They innovated. When confronted with seemingly insurmountable obstacles, they invented entirely new solutions. The images showed remarkable examples. Humans surviving in Arctic environments by developing complex clothing and shelter technologies, transforming barren landscapes into agricultural zones, creating communication networks that connected entire planetary populations. But it was their approach to conflict that truly fascinated the Zorak researchers. Unlike most species that relied on brute force or technological superiority, humans displayed a unique form of strategic thinking. They didn't just fight. They understood. They analyzed. They adapted with a speed and flexibility that seemed almost organic. Kolvar zoomed in on a historical record of human military strategy. Notice how they approach problem solving, not as a linear progression, but as a multidimensional challenge. They don't just overcome obstacles, they redefine the very nature of the obstacle itself. The research team watched recordings of human innovations, medical breakthroughs achieved through unconventional thinking, engineering marvels constructed with limited resources, scientific discoveries that emerge from what seemed like pure imagination. They treat limitations as opportunities, Vorik observed, a note of reluctant admiration in his voice. Where our civilization would see a barrier, they see a chance to create something entirely new. Deep in the Zorak command structure, this research was causing significant concern. The encounter with the human vessel was no longer seen as a single anomalous event. It was becoming clear that humanity represented something far more complex and potentially dangerous. In the Central War Planning Chamber, high-ranking strategists debated the implications. The holographic displays showed multiple scenarios, each more concerning than the last. Traditional conquest strategies seemed laughably inadequate against a species that could transform every potential weakness into an unexpected strength. We cannot predict them, one strategist argued. Their cognitive patterns do not follow any known evolutionary trajectory. Another responded, her voice laden with growing apprehension. That is precisely what makes them dangerous. Meanwhile, on Earth, most humans remained blissfully unaware of the galactic deliberations happening in their name. Captain Elena Rodriguez was probably enjoying a cup of coffee, completely unaware that her single encounter had sent ripples of uncertainty through an advanced alien civilization. The Zorak were learning a fundamental truth about humanity. They were not just another species to be catalogued and conquered. They were a force of nature, unpredictable, innovative, and utterly uncontainable. And this was just the beginning. Technological divergence. The Zorak collective's anxiety reached a critical point 3 standard solar cycles after the initial encounter. Their intelligence networks, typically impenetrable and precise, struggled to comprehend the human approach to technological development. Admiral Zeltak stood before a holographic projection of human technological advancements, his four-jointed limbs trembling with a mixture of frustration and emerging respect. The humans didn't follow any predictable path of scientific progression. Where the Zorak had spent millennia perfecting singular technological streams, humans seemed to innovate through chaos and unexpected convergence. Take their communication networks, for instance. While the Zorak rely on quantum-entangled communication matrices that required massive energy infrastructure, humans had developed a planetary network using primitive electromagnetic waves and decentralized infrastructure. It was inefficient. It was messy. And somehow it worked brilliantly. Their medical technology was equally perplexing. Instead of pursuing complete biological reconstruction like the Zorak, humans developed adaptive treatments that worked with the body's natural systems. They didn't seek to replace biological limitations. They found ways to enhance and work around them. Dr. Kolvar, the chief researcher who had been studying human development, presented his most recent findings to the Zorak High Council. The chamber, usually a bastion of calm technological superiority, now felt charged with an unfamiliar emotion: uncertainty. Their technological development is not linear, Kolvar explained, his translation matrix struggling to convey the complexity. They don't improve technology. They reimagine it entirely. He projected an example that had become legendary within their research circles. During a global pandemic on Earth, humans had rapidly developed medical technologies, communication systems, and social adaptation strategies in a matter of months, a process that would have taken the Zorak centuries. The most disturbing aspect was their ability to collaborate. While the Zorak collective operated through strict hierarchical systems, humans seemed to generate breakthrough innovations through seemingly chaotic collaborative networks. Scientists, engineers, programmers, they shared information with a speed and openness that defied all known technological development protocols. They treat knowledge as a living, fluid entity, Kolvar continued. Not a static resource to be controlled, but something to be shared, challenged, and continuously transformed. A senior council member, Commander Vexna, interrupted. Are you suggesting we should view them as a potential threat? Kolvar's response was measured. I'm suggesting we view them as something we've never encountered before. Not a threat. Not an opportunity. Something fundamentally different. The implications were profound. The Zorak had conquered hundreds of civilizations, each following predictable patterns of technological and social development. Humanity broke every model, every prediction. Their space exploration approach was equally unconventional. While the Zorak invested centuries in developing perfect interstellar vessels, humans launched relatively crude crafts driven by an insatiable curiosity. They didn't wait for perfection. They learned by doing, by failing, by adapting. The UES Horizons encounter was no longer seen as an isolated incident. It was becoming clear that it represented something much larger. A species that viewed technological limitations not as barriers, but as challenges to be creatively overcome. As the Zorak High Council deliberated, one thing became increasingly clear. Traditional strategies of galactic dominance would not work with humans. They were playing an entirely different game, with rules that were constantly being rewritten. And the Zorak were just beginning to understand the rules of engagement. The next move would be critical. And nobody, not the humans, not the Zorak, could predict what would happen next. The turning point. The first direct confrontation between human and Zorak forces was never intended to happen. But in the vast, unpredictable theater of interstellar space, intentions meant little. The Zorak battle fleet consisted of 12 massive war cruisers, each a testament to technological supremacy. Quantum-shielded hulls, plasma dissipation systems, and AI-driven combat algorithms made them the terror of known space. They had come to neutralize the human threat before it could fully develop. What they didn't anticipate was the United Earth Defense Fleet's response. Commander Elena Rodriguez, now leading the specialized task force, watched the approaching Zorak fleet with a calm that would have unnerved her alien opponents. Her flagship, the UES Prometheus, was nothing like the massive alien war machines. It was smaller, more compact, with systems that looked almost improvised. Incoming quantum transmission, her communications officer reported. Standard Zorak ultimatum. The holographic display flickered to life. A segmented alien form, all sharp angles and cybernetic enhancements, spoke with clinical precision. Surrender is your only logical option. Resistance will result in complete destruction. Rodriguez's response was a single word. Noted. What followed defied every strategic model in the Zorak combat archives. The human fleet didn't form a traditional defensive line. Instead, they moved like a living, breathing organism. Small corvettes darted between the massive Zorak cruisers, their movements so erratic that targeting systems struggled to lock on. Each ship seemed to communicate with the others through an invisible network, adapting in real time. The Prometheus itself was a marvel of adaptive technology. Its hull was composed of modular systems that could reconfigure mid-battle. Damaged sections would automatically seal, redistribute power, and continue functioning. Where Zorak ships were rigid monuments to technological perfection, the human vessels were fluid, organic, constantly changing. Quantum shield penetration at 12%, a Zorak tactical officer reported, his voice rising with growing panic. How are they disrupting our targeting systems? The answer was deceptively simple. Humans didn't fight the way other species did. They didn't seek to overpower. They sought to understand, to adapt, to find the smallest weakness, and exploit it with surgical precision. Each human ship carried an advanced AI system, but not the rigid, predictive systems of the Zorak. These were learning systems, capable of making split-second decisions based on constantly evolving data. They didn't just predict enemy movements. They anticipated them, learned from them, and developed counter-strategies in milliseconds. A Zorak cruiser attempted to unleash its primary weapon, a quantum cascade cannon capable of obliterating entire planetary systems. Before the weapon could fully charge, 3 human corvettes had already identified its energy signature, targeted its critical power junctions, and launched a coordinated strike. The cruiser's shield failed, not through brute force, but through a dozen precisely calculated micro-interventions. Commander Rodriguez watched the battle unfold with a scientist's curiosity. This wasn't just a military engagement. It was a complex system in motion, with each component learning and adapting in real time. They're treating warfare like a collaborative problem-solving exercise, she murmured to her second-in-command. As the battle progressed, the Zorak realized something terrifying. They weren't just losing. They were being studied. Every weapon fired, every defensive maneuver was being analyzed, understood, and systematically neutralized. By the engagement's end, 6 Zorak cruisers had been disabled. Not destroyed. Disabled. Captured. Transformed from weapons of war into sources of knowledge. The remaining fleet retreated, something the Zorak had never done in their entire recorded history. Humanity had done more than win a battle. They had fundamentally altered the nature of interstellar conflict. And this was just the beginning. Unexpected resolution. The aftermath of the battle changed everything. The Zorak Collective found themselves in an unprecedented situation. They had not just been defeated. They had been thoroughly, comprehensively understood. Every technological advantage, every strategic approach they had developed over millennia of galactic conquest had been dissected, analyzed, and neutralized by a species they had initially dismissed as primitive. In the diplomatic chambers of the Zorak homeworld, a remarkable meeting took place. Not a surrender, not a negotiation of terms, but a genuine attempt to understand. Commander Elena Rodriguez sat across from High Counselor Krenak, the tension in the room thick enough to cut with a quantum blade. Around them, translation matrices hummed, bridging not just language, but entire conceptual frameworks. "You do not seek to conquer," Krenak finally stated. It was less a question and more an admission of confusion. Rodriguez smiled. "We seek to understand, to explore, to grow." The human approach was fundamentally different from any species the Zorak had encountered. Where other civilizations sought territory, resources, or dominance, humans appeared driven by something more intangible: pure curiosity. The captured Zorak technology became a focal point of collaborative research. Instead of treating it as a spoil of war, the humans proposed something radical: joint exploration. The modular nature of human scientific approach meant they saw the alien technology not as a weapon, but as a puzzle to be solved, a potential pathway to new understanding. Krenak reviewed the initial research proposals. They were unlike anything in Zorak's scientific history: collaborative, open, willing to challenge existing paradigms without fear. "Your species does not think in linear progression," he observed. "You think in possibilities." The human response was characteristically direct. "We don't see limitations. We see opportunities waiting to be discovered." The diplomatic resolution was equally unprecedented. No treaties of submission, no territorial divisions. Instead, a framework of mutual exploration was established. The Zorak would share their advanced technological insights. Humans would contribute their adaptive problem-solving capabilities. On research stations scattered across multiple star systems, Zorak scientists worked alongside their human counterparts. They discovered something profound. True innovation happens at the intersection of different perspectives. Humanity's greatest strength was not its technological prowess. It was its ability to look at complex problems from angles no one else considered. Where the Zorak saw rigid systems, humans saw flexible networks. Where the aliens saw completed knowledge, humans saw ongoing discovery. Commander Rodriguez understood something fundamental about this moment. This wasn't just first contact. This was the beginning of a new kind of galactic interaction. "We're not here to replace your understanding," she told Krenak during their final meeting. "We're here to expand it." The Zorak Collective had entered this encounter expecting to conquer. They were leaving with something far more valuable: a new way of seeing the universe. Somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the UES Prometheus continued its journey, not as a weapon of war, but as a beacon of human potential, exploring, learning, transforming the very fabric of galactic understanding. The universe, they had discovered, was not a place to be conquered. It was a mystery to be understood. And humanity was just getting started.